the mothers in there. Happy Mother's Day.
Amen.
All right, at this time, I've asked Jerry to come up to introduce our speaker for tonight. I know we're in for a treat.
Hard of it.
I'm now calling him Jerry. It's my job to introduce the speaker tonight. John, one of the things I love about AA is, this is a day meeting at night, and we moved, we never changed the name of the group. We just moved to another location, and there we are. But I am going to introduce the speaker tonight, and if you've not heard Kip before, you're in for a treat. I think he's changed his name to Kip Zumaholic. But I've sponsored Kip for 11, I'm going on 11 years now. And he's never failed to do anything that I ask him to do, working the steps, doing the whole, everything. And he's got a strong faith spirituality faith in his program, and we related that early on. When he first came into this program, he had to be in the halfway house before 7 o'clock. And when you got meetings that were starting at 8 back then, that was a little hard to do. We went and talked to powers to be, and they agreed to let him go as long as he would come back and be inside after the meeting was over with, at a little bit after 9. So, and then he moved on, and he hadn't looked back. So, y'all help me welcome Kip Zumaholic.
Thank you, Jerry. Love you, brother.
So, the truth.
All right. I'm a grateful alcoholic. My name's Kip. Can y'all hear me back there? No. I always like to start with a little bit of a icebreaker, if that's all right with y'all. It's Friday night, guys. I'm not a glum lot. I know y'all aren't. I like having a good time. First of all, I want to thank Robin for asking me to speak tonight about a month ago. So I've had a whole month to figure this out, and I'm still blank. I have no clue what I'm going to say, but we'll let God take over, hopefully, and that's what we want to happen anyway, right? So, I always like to do a little icebreaker, and this is Gordon, my friend Gordon's favorite, and I'm going to share it with you if I can tell it like him. I probably can't, but I'm going to give an effort. There's this man and his wife, husband and wife, riding down the road, and he's got a busted tail light. Police pulls him over. Police goes up to the window, knocks on the window, rolls your window down, says, did you know you had a broken tail light? And the guy said, no, I'll get it fixed tomorrow. The wife said, I told you 2 weeks ago to fix that tail light. He was like, hold on, lady, be quiet. Let me see your driver's license. Showed him his driver's license. Driver's license is expired. And the police officer asked him, says, did you realize your driver's license are expired? And he said, no, I'll get them renewed tomorrow. And his wife said, I told you a month ago that you got a letter from the DMV and that your driver's license were expired and you need to get them things renewed. And he was like, shut the, no. Oh my gosh, there's a police right here. And the police looked over at the woman and said, ma'am, does your husband always talk to you like that? She said, no, only when he's drunk. Man, that's what we do. Again, I'm a grateful alcoholic. My name's Kip. I think it's funny. I mean, especially when Gordon tells it. He ain't here tonight, so it's okay. I got a sobriety date, July the 8th, 2010. As you met my sponsor, I've got a home group in High Point and a home group in Greensboro. Home group in High Point is New South group. We meet every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. during the pandemic because we shifted from the church to the club. Open discussion meeting, all are welcome, 1301 English Road, and every Thursday night for an open speaker meeting at 7:30 p.m. there at the club in High Point, and you're welcome to come. Also, the early bird that meets at the Summit Club. I hadn't been there in a while because of the pandemic and the Zoom thing and everything, but they're still my home group. Meets used to meet every day at 8 a.m. Until the pandemic. Now they're back open Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. at the Summit Club. So y'all are welcome to join that anytime. The big book tells me I should tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. I'll go ahead and start. Guys, I grew up in a good Christian home. My family, my mom and my dad, devoted Christians. I mean, they believed the Bible front to back. They were very spiritual people. And they raised me right. I mean, from a kid up, I was in church Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night, revivals, vacation Bible school, whatever, anything. They went to the prison and took in services there, just all over the place. And I'm grateful for that. And they taught me right from wrong and good moral values. And, I did all right with it for a little while. I don't know, there was just something about getting up on Sunday morning at early to go to church, after going to school all week long. I just hated it. I hated getting up. I mean, once I got there, I was all right, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. It was great. But anyway, I'm going to fast forward. I did okay in school. Everything pretty good. I made A's and B's in school. Basic average student, but did pretty good in school. Never failed a grade. That was awesome. How that happened, I'll never know. But something dramatic happened to me when I was 14 years old. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. And I promise you, I have dug deep, down deep inside, and I tell you, I did not understand what that word cancer meant at 14. I had no clue. Like I said, I was raised in a Christian home. We had good faith. We believed in miracles. And I had that instilled in me. And, my thinking is, she's sick. God will fix her, whatever. They come and told me, said she's got cancer. She's got such and such amount of time to live. I was like, I don't believe that anyway. This is what really hurts me to the core. Thank God I'm free from it today, and I know I'm forgiven, but, I've always heard life is lived forward and understood backwards. Lived forward and understood backwards. I could see it now, didn't see it then. They said she's not going to live much longer. And I'm going to tell you, this is one thing that I did that I hated myself for years that I did at 14. I was at the hospital. My mom's on her deathbed. 2 weeks before she passed was the last time I seen her. My dad had me up there at that hospital, 14 years old. My mother, when I was going out the door, she said, "Come here, give me a kiss goodbye." I walked out of the room like I didn't hear her because I had so much guilt and shame. Whatever reason, I still don't know why. The reason is I didn't turn around and go give my mother a hug and a kiss goodbye, and didn't go back for 2 more weeks. 2 weeks went by, and I had every intention of going to that hospital. But when I was 14, I wanted to rip and run. I grew up in a Wood Lake mobile home park. It's in Greensboro, south of Greensboro. If any of y'all know where that's at, there's like 300 mobile homes in there. And I ripped and run that place. I was all over it. And, I just, looking back, all I wanted to do was be around my friends and do what I did. And, of course, my dad being up at the hospital, I had the place basically to myself when he was gone. So that was one reason, after looking back, that I didn't go. And again, I did think, this was in my mind, she'll be fine. God will touch her. It's not my excuse. I should have been up there whether God was going to touch her or not. But the sheriff came to the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 weeks after that date I was telling y'all about, and told my dad that my mom had passed. I thought they were actually there for me because I was done a lot of mischief, and I really thought that's what they were there for. But that's what happened, and And I just beat myself up. I was numb. I was really numb. I had remembered, vaguely my first drink. My dad got diagnosed with kidney stones back in the 70s. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old, and the doctor prescribed back then, for him to drink a beer, and he didn't even like it. He couldn't even muster the taste of it, but he brought it, put it in the house, told me not to touch it. And that was the worst thing he could have done, is told me not to touch it, because that's to flush out his kidney. 1 beer a day, the doctor told him. I know that's a crazy prescription, but that's what it was. And I seen my brothers. I got 2 brothers, one about 3 years older than me and one about 6 years older than me. And I seen my oldest brother. I always, followed in his footsteps. And I seen him get into it. I said, I'd get into it too, and I did. And I don't remember much happening about it. But I know that was my first drink. I love milkshakes, y'all, but I don't remember my first milkshake. But I remember that first drink. I just do. And I got a lot of outside issues with my story, but I'm going to keep it to alcoholics, my alcohol issues here, and my problems with alcohol, because this is Alcoholics Anonymous. So here I go. My mom passed away. My dad gets remarried a year after my mom passes away. I've got resentments galore, guys. I'm like, what in the world are you doing getting married a year after my mom passed? I understand it today. I can look back and see he was 43 years old at the time. I get it. I've been 43 myself. And I get it. And he needed a companion. I understand it. But at the time, I didn't get it. I thought it was all about me. Why, you ought to be, it's just you and me. We chums, we pals. But I didn't pay, looking back, I didn't pay my dad a bit of mine during that year. My mother was gone. I was out doing my thing. So he got him a wife. And of course, I hated her from the get-go. I never even gave her a chance. Long story short, guys, I ended up graduating high school. My dad said, okay, me and her wasn't getting along. Plus, he was ready for me to move on, but I wasn't moving on, so he moved on. So he gave us me and my middle brother, this little mobile home here in Woodlake, and he moved like 100 yards away, and he said, the only thing you got to do, I'm 17 when I graduate, right? I get out of high school, 17. I turned 18 in September, I graduated in May. And he said, in May, I'm 17 years old, got my own place. And me and my middle brother. And he said, look, this is all you got to do. And I took carpentry in high school, so I started out doing carpentry work right out of high school, making pretty good money. More than a 17-year-old ought to be making, I promise you. This full-blown alcoholic. I'm full-blown alcoholic from the get-go. But it really, I let the clutch out, so to speak, when I got out of high school. I promise you. I mean, I went full blast. He left. He said, all you got to do is pay the light bill. I was like, well, that's simple enough. I mean, it's like back then, $60, $70 a month for a little mobile home. And I couldn't even pay that, y'all. We used to have parties at my house because, at 17 years old, all the other kids, they're getting ready to go to college. I ain't even thinking about it. I ain't going to no college. I had enough of school. Anyway, long story short, I was like, y'all, let's have parties at my house. So we'd have keg parties, PJ parties. Y'all ever had PJ? That where you put Everclear in your fruit and then let it sit all day and then put a little bit of Hawaiian punch on it. Yeah, that's stuff. So we'd have them kind of parties. And I did good for a little while, guys. I mean, I did good for a little while. I'd make it to work on Monday. And it wasn't long, guys. My drinking progressed to where I drank on Sunday, because I just drank on Friday and Saturday, and I'd go to work. And it wasn't long that I was missing Monday. It wasn't long, I was like, well, I missed Monday. You might as well miss Tuesday and let the clutch out a little more. Next thing you know, I come to a crossroad in my progression of my disease where working was getting in the way of my drinking, and drinking was getting in the way of my working, so one or two things had to go. And y'all know what I chose, right? I chose the liquor. I chose the drinking. The only problem with that, guys, is, it takes money to buy alcohol. And I couldn't work. I couldn't keep a schedule because I had to drink all night. And I found some outside issues, what I call condiments, that you kind of douse on your alcohol to give you a little bit more, be able to drink a little bit more. And so I'd stay up all night. I wouldn't go to work, and then I'd have to find a way to get it, blah, blah, blah. I resorted to lying, cheating, stealing, conning, and manipulating. Whatever I could do to get the next drink. And so the consequences of that is, see, I thought I was invisible. I'm not invisible. I promise you, sooner or later at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Office Depot, all these stores, they finally see you. And they tackle you at the door when you're going out. And I got tackled more than once. Anyway, long story short, and writing bad checks. And anyway, I'm not proud of all this. This is my story. And I end up in prison. 5 times I went to prison. I'm not proud of it. Every time I'd go to prison, I'd say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous at McLeansville Prison over here in 1989. And I got an opportunity to go to Teen Challenge at 19 years old. But I said, no, I don't have time to go for 1 year. 1 year to a retreatment? No, absolutely not. So I turned that down. So I got to do the prison time. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward because we don't have all night for me to tell you about all this. But I'm going to tell you, what it was like was miserable. I got to a point where I didn't want to live and I didn't want to die. It was just, I don't know how to explain it. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you ever been there. I'm sure you have. 2005, I'm just going to fast forward. 2005, I wound back up in prison. I'm before the judge. They hit me with I'm a habitual criminal at this point, habitual felony status, which is not good to be in. And the judge said, each one of these habitual criminal charges are 80 to 105 months each. If you do the math, that's a long time. I mean, a long, long time. You do the math. I mean, it's a long time. And they said, Kip, we got you on these 4 felonies. Jack Hatfield was my lawyer by default because I didn't have any money. He had to take a case. So he did good and got me pled out where they would boxcar my sentence. Anyway, I ended up doing 48 months on a 42 to 54 month sentence from 2005 to 2009, almost to the day. And now while I'm in prison, I made use of my time. I did, went to school, and then I went to DART program, which is Drug Alcohol Recovery Treatment in prison. I also was asked to be a peer counselor while I was in there. If anybody's been in prison in North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. I got paid a big $1 a day to do that. And that was rich, in prison. That's a lot of money. And I did exactly, look, I wouldn't even follow my own advice. I did go to AA while I was in there, but I mean, it's kind of like, make the programmer happy, try to get my game time so I could get the heck out of there and get on with my life. But when I was a peer counselor, I was real good at telling y'all what y'all need to do, but didn't follow my own advice. When y'all get out, make sure you go to that A&A meeting. Make sure you get a sponsor. Make sure you work the 12 steps. And as soon as I got out, again, I grew up in this Christian background, guys. I always thought, this is what I thought. This is why it's so hard for me to get this thing of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the simplest thing in the whole wide world to get. It really is. But I believed. I had this belief system inside of me so strong that if God and the church ain't going to do it, I promise you Alcoholics Anonymous ain't going to do it. When all along, God was trying to push me to you ever since 1989 looking back. And I didn't even know it. I had no clue. So I go out. I don't even really call it a relapse because I really wasn't working those steps, but for sake of the wording, we'll say it's a relapse. About 9 or 10 months out, because I made up my mind I wasn't going to do this no more. I just did 4 years. I did 10 years in installments within 5 times going to prison. I'm not proud of that. That's just my story. And I want to give people hope that may be in that predicament, that God can do anything. He's bigger than alcohol. He's bigger than anything. He's bigger than my record. And I can prove it to you of what he's done in my life since I've been here. And what he did for me while I was out there. Anyway, I have no mental defense against the first drink, guys, but I made it. I got out of prison. I didn't have no driver's license. I had this big plan, which I could have been a success at it, but I chose to go a different route. I got me a business going back in the carpentry field, subcontracting framing houses and decks, remodeling and stuff that I'd always done, and I did good for a while. I mean, I actually had it legal. I had my van. I bought me a van, filled it up with tools, and got me a driver. And I had a driver. I wasn't going to drive or none of that. I had this van sitting out here. This big old van. I don't know, something about a van that's legal when you ain't got no drive. It'll talk to you. It talk to me and say, drive me. It'll say, drive me. You need to drive me. And I'd be like, no, I mean, I resisted for a long time, guys. I did. I resisted for like 6-7 months. And finally, one day, here's my angle, guys. I'm down in Lewisburg, where I'm living in Lewisburg, over in the Raleigh, Wake Forest area is where I was at, living and running that business. And I've got probably $10,000 worth of tools on this van. I mean, 24-foot wall boards, 20 inches wide, and I mean, I had it stacked with all kinds of stuff. And every tool I could need times 10, I was on that truck to build a house with. And I'm thinking, you know what? I hadn't seen my dad. I've been in prison 4 years, right? I hadn't seen my dad in almost 5 years. I'm going to get in this van. It's legal. I'm not. I don't have no driver's license. But here's what I'm telling you. I'm going to get in this van. I'm going to go see my dad. It's like an hour-and-a-half drive. And I'm going to go see him, spend the night with him, and I'm going to come back home, go back to work Monday. I'm building a Wake Forest College Birthplace Museum that I'm building for Landmark Construction Company, and I'm supposed to be there Monday. And I got 6 guys that work for me, 7 guys that work for me, helping me frame this thing. I get in this van on Saturday. I think it's Friday. No, it's Friday night. Friday night, I get in this van. I'm going to go see my dad. I'm going to stay with him on the weekend. Well, I get about to Durham. And when I get to Durham, this thought comes to my mind. It's getting late. You don't need to disrupt your daddy tonight. Why don't you just go get you a motel, I'm saying at the Budget Motel. Do y'all know where the Budget is on Ranneman Road? Go over there, get you a room, and while you're on the way, just get you a 12-pack. You ain't drank in 5 years. You've earned it. You know, man, look at these tools. You're doing good. You did great. You can drink just one 12-pack and then go on there tomorrow morning. Well, guys, I got that motel at the Budget, and they got some condiments over there to go with to help me boost my drinking. And 3 weeks later, I stayed at that hotel. I spent every penny I had. I had saved $10,000, spent all $10,000, and had pawned everything I had, sold everything I had, and called my daddy. Lost that job. I didn't even care. There's one thing about what alcohol does for this alcoholic. It takes me to a place called I don't care. I want my mail delivered there. That's where I'm at. I don't give a rat's butt about nothing. I just don't. I don't know what it is about it. It just takes me to a place. Ethics. I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to be clean here. We're in the church. And just, that's the way I was. And I give my dad this sob story of how life has treated me unfair. And like a good dad that he is, he says, and I'm homeless. He don't understand what I've been doing. And he let me come stay with him. And I went over there and stayed with him. And he says, Kip, and I ain't got no job. And he said, Kip, because I'm giving him these crazy, just lies is what it was, bunch of lies. He said, Kip, I'm going vacation for a week. I want you to hold it down. I'll be back in a week. I said, yes, sir. And this is another thing that I hated myself. I mean, I had been in prison for that long a time away from alcohol. The judge dropped 2 habitual criminal charges on me. And when he left, that obsession got on me so strong, I had to have it. And so I did. And I'm going to tell you, if I don't get to it, I made an amends to my dad, by the way. But I stole I'm not proud of this, y'all. This alcohol had me in such a grip, so I stole everything that wasn't nailed down. What I was going to do is I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to kill myself. That was my plan. That's what I was going to do. I said, I'm taking it, and I had this entitlement and all this stuff, just bad. And I stole his truck, and I stole everything that wasn't nailed down upon it, and then, of course, he did exactly what he was supposed to do when I got home. When he got home, I wasn't there. I was at the liquor house, and he called the police, and the police arrested me on July the 7th, 2010. And guys, but for the grace of God, that could be my tombstone date. But God's grace and mercy, it's not. I got locked up, put under a $50,000 bond, and I knew I was done. July the 8th is my first sober breath date. That's my sobriety date. They had an AA meeting in the jail. I went to the AA meeting in the fall and said, I'm done. There's no getting out of this. How did this happen? You know, it takes about a week or two for me to really come to my senses of what I've really done and the extent that I've done and the harm, like a tornado running through all these folks' lives. That's exactly what I am. Just the big book describes me to a T, because that's what I was, running through his life. And I got 4 felonies that day. And I knew that judge, and they were going to hit me with at least 1 or 2 more of those habitual, and they were going to make them stick this time. So I knew I was going to get at least 10 to 15 years in prison. Well, I'm under a $50,000 bond. I couldn't have made a $5 bond. Get the CO, what we call them, come to the cell door and said, Kip, there's somebody down here that wants to see you. And I was like, I figured it was my public defender. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. I was bankrupt spiritually, physically. I didn't have nothing. I was out of schemes, y'all. I had nothing else in me to fight. And I wanted to die. I just didn't have the courage to do it. I didn't have the wherewithal to kill myself. This guy comes and he interviews me. His name's Jeff Bennett. He's a drug court coordinator in Greensboro. I was at the old jail that's right behind the new jail now at the time. And he sits me down and he says, Kip, do you think you have a problem with alcohol, and do you want some help? I said, yes, sir, but I just don't know what to do. He said, well, don't worry. We're going to tell you exactly what to do. Here's what you're going to do if you're willing. Guys, he told me that day, he said, Kip, you're not staying in Greensboro. We are going to move you to High Point. This is how I ended up in High Point. That's how I met my sponsor. We're going to move you to High Point. We got a place called Caring Services there. It's a recovery community. If you've never been there, it saved my life. Saved my life. He said, you're going to go there. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to see a probation officer once a week. They're going to schedule it where you see them for an hour a week. You're going to see a task agent once a week, which is somebody that kind of helps you adjust to being in the community. You're going to see a drug court coordinator once a week. You're going to go to an AA meeting every day. You're going to go to anger management. Can you believe that? Make me go to anger management. I got to go to anger management. You'll go to anger management. Best thing. Help me with my anger. Surprise, surprise. And you're going to go to IOP, which is intensive outpatient. And you think you can do all that? I said, yes, sir. Of course, I'm going to say anything. I didn't know if I wanted what you had when I got here, but I sure knew I didn't want what I had no more. My way was not working. I was done. I had no more schemes. I had no ways out. I said, sign me up. And by the way, you got to be home at 7 o'clock every morning, every afternoon, evening, for 6 months. And we're going to come by your house and make sure you're there. And then I got to stay in a house with 13 people with 5 personalities. Including me, I had about 5. So 5 times 13, that's a lot of people in a house. Wow. Beats jail or prison or death was my next option. So I said, sign me up. They signed me up, guys. And I go in. I got to be, again, at 7 o'clock. They got this meeting. Everybody suggested, because they know what's up when you go to High Point. Trust me, they know where to point you. Got this meeting called the On Awakening meeting. I walk in there at 6:30 a.m. because the meeting starts at 7:30. I walk in, big old dude there, man. I mean, he's big, huge, Kenny D. Big old guys there, and another guy's there, and they said, welcome, we're going to make you the chairman. I was like, chairman, me? I'm important. All right. He said, yeah, we got about 150 chairs. I need you to stack them over here. And then I need you to mop the floor. And then I need you to put them back. And you know what? I found out that was the most important job for me at the time. Because it got me out of me. And you know what I did? I used to count the squares on the floor, guys, and I put them chairs. I had it perfect. I was a perfectionist. I said, look, y'all come here and look at what I did. So, it got me out of me. Next thing you know, I looked up, guys, and the obsession to drink was gone. It's amazing. But first I started working the steps with Jerry. That's where the obsession was lifted. When I began to work the steps with Jerry, I met Jerry at a Back to Basics meeting that they finally let me go out after about 2 or 3 months. They let me go to 1 meeting a week, stay out till 9:30, I think. And that's where I met Jerry, and we sat in his car and did the first 3 steps, and then I got busy on my 4th step, did a 5th step with him at his house, and continued on. And here I am. Guys, God has blessed me tremendously. I made On Awakening my home group, and then I heard Wayne S. speak at the Christmas Club, and I knew I was about ready to come back to Greensboro. And he said, my home group's early bird. And I was like, I loved Alcoholics Anonymous in the morning. So I came and visited, and I've been there. I've been at the early bird probably 8 years. And I love it. I love the early bird. I love an early morning meeting. God has blessed me. This is another thing, that the miracles that just keep happening in my life just keep happening during this short period of time. My sponsor said, there ain't but one thing you need to change. And I said, what's that? He said, everything. He said, there's one thing that don't need to change. I said, what's that? He said, your sobriety date. Keep that the same. And I took him up on that. Keep my sobriety date the same. And it took a little while, but I found out that I fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to read just this one thing that a lady read in the meeting this morning, if I may. It really stuck with me. It's in the 12 and 12, and she read it. It says, we of AA obey spiritual principles. At first, because we must, then because we ought to, and ultimately because we love the kind of life such obedience brings. I love the life that's where I'm at today. I love the life that obedience to the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous has given. I ain't had no driver's license, y'all, for 20 years. 20 years. I'm 7 months sober now. I'm about ready to go to work. Carrying services. This is what they do and what God does through them. They said, Kip, you ain't got no license? I said, no, I ain't had them in 20 years. I never got a DWI, but when it come time to get them renewed at 20 years old, because back then it was only a 4-year period, when it come time to get them renewed, that cost money, and I didn't want to spend my money doing that. And then I got caught driving with license suspended, and then I wouldn't renew my tags. I wouldn't do none of that. And long story short, they'd catch me over and over and over. Anyway, I had 4 driving license revoked charges, 1 in Davidson County, 1 in Randolph County, 1 in Greensboro, 1 in High Point. Carrying Services, Jason Yates got on the phone with the court system and said, let's get him a court date set so we can get this behind him. I went, and this guy named Sam, he drove the bus for Carrying Services. And Carrying Services took me to those 4 different court case places, and you know what happened to every one of them? Case dismissed. All 4 of them. $150 to get my license back. And I could have did that years ago. That's simple to get my license back. Here's the kicker. My sponsor said you don't need to change but everything, and I was thinking to myself, well, what can I do? And I'm thinking, I got ulterior motives, right? I do. I ain't going to lie. I have ulterior motives. I'm like, you know what? I like cars. I'd like to get in the car business. That'd be nice. And I called this place that had an ad on Craigslist for a manager for a car lot. And I called them, and I had an interview for Monday to go see them. I'm 7 months sober. And Tuesday, I was getting my license back. I was like, dang, how's this going to look? I go to this interview, ain't even got a driver's license. How am I going to get a car lot? They called me and said, we can't come Monday. We'll be there Tuesday. Got my driver's license back Tuesday. I had that little paper, and I walked in there, and they sat me down and interviewed me and said, Kip, you got the job. Gave me the job, and when they gave me the job, and I didn't know this was going to happen, they said, here's all the keys, here's all the titles, here's the keys to the building. We're not going to be here. You're responsible. You do everything to run this car. Look, guys, I have never one time sold cars. And I've sold a lot of myself to building houses and stuff, but never once sold a car. I had no clue how to do the paperwork. They said, here's the paperwork, figure it out. So I went to the DMV 3 to 4 times on the same paperwork trying to get people's tags. And, you know, after spending time going back and forth, you learn. I learned. And I had a car that was my ulterior motive. I was like, heck, if I get this job, I'll have something to drive. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I had no money, none. And they gave me a car. They said, matter of fact, you need to drive all these cars because they need to be driven because they're used cars. They get blood pumping, so to speak, in the cars. And here's gas money. I was like, and guys, 3 minutes, maybe, I'm going to say 2 minutes drive to the Budget Motel, guys. And I come by there from High Point every day looking at what I had done 7 months prior. And even still, the insanity of alcoholism would still talk to me. But because I had been working the steps with Jerry, I had a defense to say, let's go to work and handle our business. And it left me. It just left me. After a while, I used to have an automatic pilot. Anybody got an automatic pilot on their car? They know where to look. I mean, the liquor store, there's some reason or another just pulled it. Anyway, I didn't. I was working the steps. I finally got a mental defense against the first drink. So I didn't go over there. I went and handled the business. 2015, God's grace and mercy, I was able to start my own car lot. So all y'all that's been to prison 5 times and you think you can't do it, God blessed me with my own car business. And it's paid for. The car lot's paid for. And I'm not doing that to brag. I just basically want to give you some hope. If you're struggling, you think you can't get a job, or this, that, and the third can't happen for you, if God's in it, He can make a way out of no way. I've seen it happen. It happened in my own life. And I got busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. This pandemic hit. And I heard Billy N. I think it's Billy H. I found him on Zoom. I was like, I found a Zoom meeting because there wasn't no meetings much. And he said to all the people, said, if your home group or something needs to start a Zoom meeting, take the initiative, put it out there, let's roll with it. And the next day, I started AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting on Wednesday night, every Wednesday night. First, I called Drew and asked him if they were going to have a Zoom meeting for 16th Street, because actually I was scheduled to chair that meeting in April. And he said, no, we're not going to have a Wednesday night meeting, so go ahead, run with it, so to speak. And so he said he wasn't going to have one, so I started that meeting. And we have about 100 people there every Wednesday night. We've had speakers from all, that's been a blessing. We've had speakers from all over the country speak on that on Wednesday nights. It's been a blessing. And then the early bird didn't have one, so we started that. And every day at 8 o'clock, we have a Zoom meeting. And most of y'all are there. A lot of y'all are there on that meeting. And I'm grateful that I get to be of service to open that meeting. It's tough being on Zoom, but it's been a blessing to me. I've learned more in the last year than I learned the first 9 years probably with this pandemic, because I've been able to go to meetings all over the world. I've met people I would have never met had it not been for Zoom. I guess that's why Jerry called me a Zoomaholic. I mean, I was like, shoot, man, I got hooked on that, man. I love some AA on Zoom, especially in the beginning. You know, it was fresh, it was new. Now it's getting kind of a little bit, but, you know, we just keep trudging. You know, we keep going, and the people keep asking me, Kip, you ain't going to stop it, are you? I was like, as long as y'all keep showing up, we'll keep having it, you know, and that's where we are with that. Just blessings after blessings after blessings has happened to me. I got married, imagine that, in sobriety, got separated in sobriety, and I didn't drink. Been separated since November 2019, and you know, God's got it. I don't have to drink behind it. I've had the opportunity. Clancy, he passed away. God rest his soul. I got a chance to go on a cruise with 204 alcoholics left out of Miami for Clancy's 60-year anniversary and Bob D's 40-year anniversary. I got to tell my story on St. Pete Beach. St. Thomas Beach in St. John's or whatever. Anyway, that was beautiful. I've been to St. Pete Beach. It's nice too. And first 5 years, I never been to a conference, and everybody kept telling me, you need to go to a conference. Man, you can't keep me away from a conference. Today, I was 5 years sober before I went to my first conference. Guys, if you ain't been to a conference, go to a conference, especially Fellowship by the Sea, because all of us are there, man. It's like, wow. I mean, just blows me away to see the joy that y'all have, to have fun. We go out to eat. We have a blast. You know, I'm not a glum lump. I absolutely insist on enjoying life. I'm not a glum lot today. I'm full blast for Alcoholics Anonymous. Dr. Bob said if you go half, in Dr. Bob's Nightmare, if you go half as the energy that you went to drinking, staying sober, you'll be a sure success. And trust me, I just love Alcoholics Anonymous. If I'm asked to do something for AA, I'm there. I may be going to Orlando for a big book workshop the end of this month at Memorial Day, and I'm looking forward to that. I love what AA has done for me. It just could never repay the life you've given me. It's each and every one of you. You know what I mean? It's the God in you pulling on the God in me, and we get to stay sober one day at a time. And it's more than that. You know, it says you got a sufficient substitute. And I say, what the big book says, yes, and vastly more than that. It's a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have met people, man, I used to be a very isolated individual with my drinking. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. I just wanted to be left alone and let me just die in this thing. You know what I mean? Guys, on September the 28th of last year, my dad passed away. 10 days prior to that, he had a massive stroke. The one I told you I stole all that stuff from. By the way, I made an amends gave him everything I owed him, and I said, if I owe you anything else, I'll pay you. You know how a lot of parents do. They're like, no, don't pay it. You don't just want you to live right. Well, my sponsor helped me with this. He said, it don't matter. You pay him anyway. And my dad took it. He took the money, and he took extra. And I was supposed to pay it, and I got free. That's where I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, I had to do that. On my 9th year anniversary at New South, they said, are there any announcements for the good of AA? My dad stood up and said, hey, I want to thank you for my son's life. I love each and every one of you of Alcoholics Anonymous who have helped keep my son sober for the last 9 years. Gary was there. I didn't ask him to do that. He just jumped up. And you talking about tears were rolling, man. And I made my amends probably within the first year or two of my sobriety with my dad. He came to work for me at my car lot. He loves cars like I do. And he got to drive cars for me back and forth to the auction. And we got to talk. And we got to reminisce. And I got videos. And we've been worldwide with him. And he's like, Kip, you need to stop that. But anyway, I got it. And it's there. It's going to be in my heart forever. When my dad got that stroke, COVID's here, right? Remember my mom, I wasn't there for her. I said, I'm not going to louse this up at all. And it was already in my heart to do it. My brother said, Kip, you're the one. And you know, us alcoholics, when we're doing right, we become the leader of the family. And he said, all my brothers, both of them said, and my sister-in-law and aunts and uncles, all of them said, you go handle it, Kip. I went up to that hospital every day, and it broke my heart seeing my dad in the condition that he was in, but I was there every day. When he took his last breath, I was on a Zoom meeting, and it was an early bird then on Zoom, and I got the call that he had passed away at 7:30 a.m. We had just opened the meeting, and I was always going to the meeting and then go up there to that hospital, and I was there for him. When it was done, because I had been working, I had a little bit of money, and so I was able to use my money to go buy everything to put that man beside my mother at Lakeview Memorial on 29. Hardest thing I ever had to do was, and most of y'all may know or may not know, I'm a minister, and I preached my dad's funeral. And because of the pandemic, they sold the church. Michael was in charge of selling the church, and with the timing of it all, the way God worked it out, we didn't even have to ask permission, because as soon as we were leaving, they had deposited the money in the bank for the church to be sold, and we were done. So we didn't even have to ask permission to use the church where he was a member at. And that was that. And it's just God's time. And I have seen had so many God shots since I've been here. It's just unbelievable. To be able to go watch the Christmas lights in a big van with all you guys, or go to Hope Valley with Mark and him drive, and we singing Kumbaya as we going. Stuff like that, man, you just can't, it's priceless. It was like a bus, man. It was cool. We'll do that again soon if it opens back up. I'm going to close with this, guys. I don't know what to say except thank you for my life. I love each and every one of you. God's done that for me. He put that in my heart, and I couldn't have never done it without. I finally surrendered to the fact that I need you guys, even still today. This is one of my favorite readings. I've got a lot of favorites. On 3:17, it says, when I am willing to do the right thing, I am rewarded with an inner peace no amount of liquor could ever provide. When I am unwilling to do the right thing, I become restless, irritable, and discontent. It is always my choice. Through the 12 steps, I have been granted the gift of choice. I am no longer at the mercy of a disease that tells me the only answer is to drink. If willingness is the key to unlock the gates of hell, it is action that opens those doors so that we may walk freely among the living. Thank you for letting me share. Y'all have a blessed night.
Kip, thank you for sharing your experience straight to her. That was wonderful, man. Let's give him another round of applause. We have fast as always now.